Start recording. How can I get onto my YouTube without being in my YouTube already? To make sure this is working. If there is anyone there, please type in the chat.
Even on YouTube, I can check for you first. Want me to check?
Oh yeah, if you can.
Yeah. What's the?
It's just Mark in the Cloud.
Just have a look. Yeah, it is there.
You can see me live.
Yeah, it's just got my Wi-Fi's working. Yeah, it's there. I can see it. See us.
Okay. Can you hear us?
There's a slight delay on it. Yeah, I can hear us. There's obviously a slight delay, but
Okay, fine. So we are live. Okay. Oh, there we go. One of my regulars from the from my Discord has just said hello. Okay. Perfect.
okay. Lovely stuff.
Awesome. Right, Harry, thanks again, and sorry for the technical hiccup there. Appreciate you joining, buddy.
No problem at all.
Quick intro to anyone watching, either live or later. Harry was the recruiter who placed me in my last role, so known each other coming up a year now. Make connections with lots of recruiters on LinkedIn, but Harry kind of stood out really. He had a great job, to be fair, that he was hiring for, but he was also one of 24 really that hit my inbox very quickly after I turned things on, and so yeah, the person I've spoken to most and is very, very good at what he does. So based on all the questions that we've had in the Discord, all of the questions I've been asked on the TikTok, I thought we could get some answers from the horse's mouth and what recruiters are really looking for, because obviously I'm just giving my side of the story at the moment and what has worked for me, and I could be a very rare case that people are just trying to follow something obviously that doesn't work for everyone, so it would be good to get a more rounded view from you.
Of course.
So did you want to give a quick overview, what you do, what sorts of roles you recruit for, and how long you've been doing it?
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, and say that to envy your point. Yeah, if everyone does get into DevOps, then yeah, you probably will get used to speaking to a few people like myself, as it seems to be quite popular. So, I started my recruitment journey about 3 years ago. I've been doing the DevOps market for 2 years now. Now I specialize in I guess, kind of the southeast is kind of what I say. Obviously, the most London area. Kind of goes over a bit into Cambridge, obviously kind of working with Checkit. So yeah, kind of work in the southeast area, DevOps, SRE, platform, cloud. I mean, job titles get so varied at the moment, but I guess yeah, any kind of jobs with DevOps tooling and cloud, I would typically work on. Did a bit of work last year, also kind of in serverless because that seems to be getting a little bit popular as well. But yeah, most cloud roles, I will work on. I've been doing it for yeah, as I said, about 2 years now.
Awesome.
What about me?
Nice one. Cheers, mate. Well, let's just get cracking then, shall we? So you've seen my TikTok anyway and the sorts of stuff that I'm saying, and
Yeah.
I'll just go very quickly over my journey in terms of how I got where I am, and so therefore the sorts of stuff I'm telling people at work. So changed careers in 4 or 5 years ago, well 3 or 4 years ago. Was working in the charity sector, had no tech background really, other than kind of a little bit of stuff that I'd done in VBA and in Excel, and started to learn web design and stuff like that, and that's not something I'm pushing, but that's really what got me on the path to it, because once I learned about the web design stuff, I was interested in hosting that stuff myself, and that got me into the server side of things, and then kind of the whole can of worms opened really then around being a kind of a system administrator, which seemed like a dying role at the time, and so I kind of looked at what that was being replaced with, and DevOps is the thing that came up over and over again. And so then to figure out what skills I needed, I literally just searched for junior DevOps roles. I found about 10 profiles, looked at all of the common skills, and made myself a little list. And that is the list that really I've turned into a roadmap now for everyone. So it is basically Linux system administration, a cloud provider, a scripting language of some sort. So I choose Python because that's the one I find the easiest to learn, but Bash is also useful, and PowerShell. And then A cloud provider. I push everyone down the AWS route because they're by far the market leader at the moment, and so until that changes, that makes the most sense.
Yes.
And then from there, it's CI/CD pipeline. So although I loathe Jenkins, it is open source, and so you can run it locally and you can test stuff yourself, and it's a really good grounding. And then moving on from that, the probably more niche stuff or the more complicated stuff is the containerization, Kubernetes, and there's probably something I've missed in there around networking or something, but they're the kind of core skills that I basically taught myself in a little home lab at home. I had a Raspberry Pi and I had some really old enterprise server stuff running in the garage, and genuinely that is how I learned everything over the course of about a year. You can see like I've got a tiny little Raspberry Pi running there, like I've got them all over the place. And it's got a little thermometer thermostat thing that I just have running, and this little thing here is wonky because last year it got to 42 degrees in this office and it started to melt off. So anyway, so that's basically it, right? So they're the things that I'm pushing people towards. And things that come up a lot, which we'll be interested to get your opinions on, is certification. So I didn't get any certs before I started, and that was a choice of mine. And then when I got into my first role, they were off to pay, and so I knocked out the Azure one because I was using Microsoft at the time, and then I did Terraform in my second one because I'd never used it before. Since then, I've done nothing, and I don't encourage people to go down that route, other than the training for those certifications are quite useful. The certificate itself, I'm saying, not necessarily that important, but I'm now 3.5 years into my journey, so as a recruiter looking for someone who's either young and starting afresh or they've changed careers, what is it that you're looking for around the certification side?
Yeah, for sure. I guess I'd kind of echo what you say, really. So as a recruiter myself, do I look for certifications? No, I don't put them in my searches. Obviously, they're always kind of a bonus if they're in there. And I think from a hiring manager point of view, I think, look, everyone kind of puts like something like job sector desired, right? But at the end of the day, if everyone's got strong experience in AWS, for example, then it's not so much important. But I think, to echo what you said, I think for someone who is a junior or looking to get into it, I can't really see a disadvantage apart from obviously the cost, right? I mean, I'm not too clued up on how much it actually costs, but I think the process of just getting your hands on the tools, learning about them, can't be a disadvantage, apart from they cost money. But from a hiring perspective, no, I wouldn't be shouting about going to get them done. I still don't think that people really look for them that much from a hiring manager point of view. I think they're always a bit of a bonus, but also I hear a lot of people say that they don't really mean anything. But I think for someone who's trying to get into it, I think there's definitely can be a benefit, as you said, right, from the learning process, understand, reading about it. But is it going to be a difference maker? I'm not 100% sure. I still think hands-on experience is the most important thing, really.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, that's good. I'm not selling them something and my biggest concern with it is the cost. So they're not massively expensive, but they range between $100 and $150 US usually, and it feels like a lot. And maybe when you get to the professional ones, it probably looks good. Like at some point I'll do like solution architect, I imagine, because that's like one of the very, very top ones for AWS. And if I want to move into head of DevOps or a solution architect role, people are probably going to want to see that I've architected or know how to. But the things that I push more is projects in your GitHub. And I don't know how much you look at that. I had a GitHub when I got my first role, and all I had in it was a Python program that I'd written from scratch, and it was consuming an API, and it was a football score thing, right? And so a couple of countries around the world, they did it for free, and it was Scotland and like Denmark or something, and I happened to support a Scottish team anyway, so I was like, this is brilliant. So I set up a Twitter account, and then I got this code running, and basically every day a cron job on the server woke it up, said, go and check, is there any games today? If there is, then record the time of the first thing, and then basically sleep until then. And then once the game's
really?
underway, check every 30 seconds if there have been any goals. Okay, great. Tweet that, tweet the score, tweet who scored, and keep doing that until all the games are finished, and then
Yeah.
and then basically die. And then the following day, the same thing happens. No games, then it just dies.
Yeah.
That just displayed to everyone that, or the people looking at it at least, that I knew how to construct a program from start to finish. You know, that end goal, consuming an API is basically everything in tech. And yeah,
All the time.
exactly. So how to structure a project, how to write classes, functions, and stuff like that. And so 100% believe that helped me get my first job. And then from there, I then started to, once I understood Terraform, I had some Terraform projects, and just been able to stand up a very basic set of resources to deploy a service, a microservice or whatever, and then having pipelines and stuff in there. Just having that is more important if I'm now recruiting, is more important to me than the certifications. So from your perspective, and I don't know how much you actually hire juniors, but if you're looking at a bunch of CVs, do you go onto their GitHub, or do you know that the hiring managers do that?
Yeah, I think from my point of view, if someone, do I look at people's GitHubs? Obviously, I can have a look, but to be honest, like obviously looking at it from my point of view, I'm not sure what quite is going on in there. But yes, I know hiring managers do. I know from the experience of some people are quite proud of their GitHub, and they will send me their CV and their GitHub, and I will forward that on. And I think the hiring managers always like to see kind of what's going on there. I'm actually doing an interview process at the moment, and the task that they're doing is all on GitHub. So I imagine if there's already some stuff on there, then obviously that's just an added bonus for the hiring managers to kind of have a little look over to see what else has been going on. And yeah, to kind of say what you say, yeah, I think getting definitely products on there is a big must, especially if you are trying to break into DevOps. Having a GitHub, and then I think, you know, even if you did have your certifications, I think it has to be backed up with something on GitHub anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a bonus, right? If you have done the certifications, you say, look, this is what I've done with my certification in GitHub, then look, you've kind of got the perfect model of point and evidence. So yeah, I think GitHub is only a bonus. I mean, I've actually recently trying to get my head around it more, to kind of, obviously, because the market is obviously competitive at the moment, that yeah, having a bit of understanding what is going on there obviously kind of benefits my role. So again, asking for GitHubs, having a look on there, see what people have done, see what if they're backing up what they said they've done right, like you said, you kind of, it's a showcase of saying, I've put this on my CV, here's proof that I can do that, and you kind of got it there before they have the chat with you. So yeah, 100%. And I think if you asked me the question about how many you should do, right, and I thought you probably have a better understanding than I do, but I don't think there's a number. There's not a right number, right? It's like, how long's a piece of string? Just keep doing them, I think.
For me, it's about what does it showcase, right? Can you, if there's one project that shows that you can write scripts, you can deploy, that you can stand up Terraform in a cloud provider, and it's a fairly meaty project, one is fine. It's like, and somebody will probably prefer to look through one to see that you've understood everything, because at the end of the day, in the job, it all comes together. You don't have all this stuff split out left, right, and center. The Terraform resources often sit with the application code, and I've worked in companies where it doesn't, but a lot of the time the best practice is any resources required by a certain application, the Terraform and all of the scripts and deployment and stuff all sits in a single repo. So if you can mimic that before you're applying for your first job, I think that's the best thing. For my guys listening from the Discord, I know they're keen. I'm constantly pushing projects, and one of the questions that comes up a lot is, when am I ready? And it's, once you've got a baseline knowledge of all those skills and you can prove, because there's no point in applying until you can prove it, because at the end of the day, it's an empty CV with no experience. And I found it so difficult to get that first interview, because I didn't not have the Terraform at the start. Like, I learned that in my second role. I was very, very lucky, and so I'm trying to use my experience really of that fluky 6 months I had getting that first job. What I needed for the second role is really what I'm trying to teach, trying to get everyone to learn, and that is having some solid projects on your GitHub. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's not the number of projects. Sangam asked how many projects we should build. It's not the number of projects, it's what those projects contain, which is the most important. We've covered the certification stuff. Okay, so Danny, I don't know if he's here, but he has asked, reading about skills that are in demand but entry level junior positions are hard to come by. do you think that's likely to change going forward in terms of the number of entry level junior positions?
Yeah, so it's a conversation obviously we had previously, isn't it? So first and foremost, I think look, obviously DevOps is getting more and more popular, which therefore means that there's always going to be junior type roles. If anyone's connected me on LinkedIn, obviously I can list some companies that do hire junior DevOps quite religiously. Sparta Global, I think, is one that comes off the top of my head. They're basically like a consultancy type business. But I think for anyone who's trying to get into DevOps, yes, I think naturally people always look for junior DevOps roles, right? It seems to be the natural transition. But I think it's really important to identify an industry you're interested in, look at companies that use the technologies you want to use. And a lot of senior DevOps engineers, principal DevOps engineers, leader in DevOps I've worked with at the moment didn't start their career within a DevOps type role. They either started, in a sysadmin, a software engineer, a software engineering role, and it kind of works their way through, use the right tech, and then gone into a DevOps role later. So I think getting into tech, whether it be DevOps or not, I think is the most important thing. And I think naturally a good way of doing that is identify an industry or something that interests you, because I think naturally then you get a bit of passion behind it, right? You've got a bit of drive before. So I don't know if you kind of want to get into, you want to work in the finance sector or something like that, and then identify some companies you'd like to work for. LinkedIn is a great place. Obviously, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I think it's so good for networking and kind of seeing what other people are doing, connect with people in the industry, and just try get into it somehow. Almost kind of like know that the end goal is DevOps, but that's the end goal. How am I going to take a stepping stone to get there? If it's through a support role, I've seen people go from support to infrastructure engineers to cloud engineers to DevOps, or as I say, kind of software engineers, and then I've made the blend over because everything's quite crossly related now. I think to answer the question, no, I don't think junior DevOps roles are going to dry up. But at the same time, there's so many different ways of getting into DevOps. Just do your best to get into tech. Don't get too down if you apply for some DevOps roles and it doesn't come back. There's multiple other ways to do it. So junior roles are never going to dry up. People are always looking for fresh new talent to train up. So no, I don't think it will dry up. And yeah, unfortunately in DevOps, you probably notice as well that the popular tech changes each year, doesn't it? It's just
it's always on the move. Yeah, I've been quite fortunate. I've been with AWS the whole time, pretty much, with the exception of those first 5 or 6 months. But even they're like, oh, we've brought out this new product. It's now they wanted to move everything towards serverless, and now I'm hearing they've even taken their AWS, their Amazon Prime Video. They've taken off of serverless to put back onto EC2 and auto scaling groups, like old school, just a load balancer, auto scaling groups, and
I have not heard of it.
And they're like, look, it just doesn't work for everything, and it's like, okay, fine, you've convinced a lot of people to do all that, and now you've just undone it all, which is I find interesting. But
and that usually doesn't work.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So yeah, my preferred setup is actually that. It is an auto-scaling group. It is EC2 and just deploying onto a box, because there's so many other things that you don't have to worry about when you come into serverless. It's easier to just hop on a box and do some of the sysadmin tasks and stuff that you just can't do when it's running on a container, a random container somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Okay. Danny followed up on that, and you've kind of covered it actually. What is a good pathway for career changers into those entry level positions? So I guess the message is, don't focus on junior DevOps necessarily. Look at junior devs, look at junior sysadmin, anything around that, because like DevOps is a combination of operations, which is system administration, and developer, which is obviously software dev. So if you can get in the door under any of those guises, even help desk, right? If you get into a company that's got a help desk that also has a proper tech department, it's so much easier to transfer and get the training inside a company. When I was in the charity sector, I had 4 different jobs in the same company, where you just get the opportunities more likely to get an interview, internal only as well, and there's so many benefits to that. So
many benefits, and a lot of also for companies as well, these job titles actually mean such different things. So if you look at the job spec and you see they're using AWS and Terraform for a junior sysadmin role, jump on it, because that's going to use it's going to go the right way in the future. So to just read the job spec, see what tech the company's using, and as you said, if there's a help desk role, but that there is a DevOps department, definitely get in there, because internal people will always look to recruit internally because they don't have to pay people like myself. So
That's it, right? Yeah.
it's cheaper and it's easier. They'll always look internally first. Yeah, just get your foot in the door somehow, and then yeah, for sure there'll be opportunities in the future.
Nice one. So James has asked, I think this is probably more for me to be honest. I know you mentioned before the Python Udemy course you list will teach you more than you'd need to know for DevOps, but what sort of skills do you require for the DevOps role from a Python programming perspective? So that is really about, as I was saying earlier, how to structure a piece of software that does a certain thing, how to use functions and classes, variables, and just understanding the basics of programming. And so that is true across any language. It doesn't matter whether you're learning Python, Java, C++, under the hood it's all looking at the same stuff and the concepts remain the same. And once you know one language, you can fairly easily pick up another. I only knew Python a few years ago. I could probably now do Node.js. I could probably now write the same stuff in PHP. You can, once you understand the concepts, you're just like, well, how do I do this in that language? And it's just about learning syntax at that point. So Danny, James, hopefully that answers your question. We can talk more about that in the chat if necessary, or I can do a Python specific live stream and we can go through some stuff.
Yeah, Python. I mean, from my point of view, it's the biggest. It's kind of the most popular I see. Is that kind of why? Is it because it is the easiest to get your hands on to use, or?
Yeah, so it's written in like just the English language. Like it is very, you just type out the stuff that you need, and it's so close to just writing the regular language, and you're not bound by semicolons and stuff like you are in JavaScript and things like that. And it's very verbose, which makes it easier in my mind to learn. The most popular one now is probably Go from a DevOps perspective, but that said, in all 4 of my roles I've never touched it, so there's lots of talk about it being huge, and it might be in Silicon Valley and all of that. I've never made it over here, but Python, like if you know some Python, you can do 99% of the stuff you can in Go, and it doesn't need to be as fast as Go, which is why everyone raves about Go. It just doesn't need to be that fast because you're writing scripts, not programs, and they're just doing 1 or 2 things really, really well, and it sits in a Lambda quite nicely, which is the whole purpose of understanding Python, really, to put it in a Lambda. Okay. Sangam asks another one. I know you have managerial experience, also hiring experience. Have you got any plans to work as a recruiter and help us get a job? Considering you know us and our skills at what we've been up to. So yeah, I've spoken to Harry about this actually, and I don't know the details yet, but I think given that we're a community of 270 now, there's going to be an opportunity, I think, to get Harry in our Discord, or or for us, or for me to really structure some sort of, I don't know, checking of knowledge, really, so that we can get to a certain point where I can say, Harry, look, I've got 5 guys in here that I think are actually ready for junior roles based on me having recruited before and you having junior roles. If we can get to that point, that would be amazing.
I think that'd be a really nice balance, wouldn't it? Because obviously you can understand when individuals are ready, and then obviously I've kind of got contacts and networks to hopefully try open up some doors for sure. As I said, there's a number of companies who I know like recruit for juniors often, and I'm definitely sure that we can get me in the Discord, and if I see a junior role come up, happy to put it in there, and kind of definitely I think it'd definitely be useful. So more than happy to.
Yeah, wicked. So hopefully that'll help. We'll get Harry in, and I'll try and protect him from all your questions as much as I can. So Farhan has asked, what's more in demand in the UK, DevOps engineer or software engineer, and also what pays more?
Do you know what? I thought this was a good question, interesting question. So I still think, like, in terms of in demand, I think they're so close, right? They're like all the guys who work on the software engineering team, I think, are equally busy as all of us doing DevOps. But obviously, there are more languages. Obviously, there's a lot of different software desks. But I think DevOps is still on the rise. Obviously, I know we're going through a bit of a tougher market at the moment, but DevOps is so popular. So I think they're pretty similar. And if the end goal is because you're money motivated, and obviously that is the reason why you're kind of picking to go into one or to the other, I think both have their roots of obviously getting paid equal amounts. I pay some software and engineering guys last year that got paid equally as much as some of the DevOps people that I did. So I think if that's why you're picking to choose one or the other, just pick which one interests you more.
Yeah.
If you enjoy coding more and seeing kind of the outcome of the code, go the software engineering route. But if you kind of, as you said, have got a bit of interest in the operations side, then obviously go towards DevOps. I think both have their ways to get into the same heights. It's just pick which one is interest you more. Is what answer that question.
Yeah. Do something you enjoy. I think being driven by the money is a dangerous route to go down, because you could end up in something you're not necessarily that happy with. The money will come as long as you focus on something, right?
It will come in both ways as well. Like, and also like I think software engineers now, I think they probably always have, but they work on. I said that the crossover is getting so much. Software engineers like do some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like DevOps engineers, I think it's a cool job, and DevOps engineers are always doing stuff exciting. But I see some software engineering stuff, and I'm like, wow, like the mixture of tech there, and like the mixture of serverless and TypeScript, and building really cool backend things. And I think front end's amazing, because obviously it's our interface, isn't it? And creative, then go the front end route. Like tech's amazing, isn't it? Because there's so many different avenues. But
exactly.
Each can get to the same money. So just pick whatever you're interested in, for sure.
Nice. So Noah has asked, I think we probably covered this to be fair, but I'll just read it out. What certifications would you suggest to someone who has to before applying for junior DevOps role? I think we both agree it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter. No, I mean, if you've got the cash to, I don't see there being a disadvantage to doing them. I really don't. If you've got some spare money there, definitely do it. But I don't think you really have to. And there's none I'd really shout about and recommend that's gonna get you to anywhere without doing it, if that makes sense. But you've got spare cash. I think any of them will give you a benefit to learn. But I'm not going to sit here and say that any are a golden star to getting into junior DevOps, because I don't think that is the case.
Yeah, no, agree. Okay, Pete's asked, would you say it's harder for newcomers to get a foot in the door now? There is a lot more people getting into the industry. So he's actually going down a cybersecurity route. So I don't know what experience you've got there, but what are things looking like on that side? In terms of breaking in.
It's it's a very interesting market, and I think security is actually getting more popular, but I think security there is actually still kind of a lack of people, I'd say. A lot of companies are now starting to obviously get quite big on the infosec kind of things. I'm not sure if that's something that you've seen at all, but it's got a lot of kind of infosec and cybersecurity stuff going about. To kind of answer the question in a more general sense, is it getting harder? I think it has always probably been quite tough. I think the hours you said you put in, wasn't it? You said you put in like nearly over 1,000.
I think to learn the stuff, I think 1,000 hours, including courses, reading, and then just practicing and stuff.
Yeah. I'd say it's probably still sort of similar to that. Yeah. Like, I think to get into, to become good at any profession, right, it takes hours of learning. Unfortunately, I think there's probably very few people that kind of you do really fall into it. I think it's an industry that's always going to be tough. It is getting popular. I'd say it's more in the kind of the limelight now, I'd say, right? Is people kind of know tech's a very lucrative industry, and I think a lot of people, when I was at school, for example, I never even thought about getting into tech.
No,
it didn't even cross my mind. Where I wouldn't be surprised if there's some people in school that are planning to go to uni to study it. So yes, it's more popular, but there's more companies being made all the time. I think it's equally as hard as it is now. It just takes time and effort, unfortunately. There is competition, but I think, very cliche, but if you stick at it, you work hard, then I'm sure you will get your foot in your door in the end.
Yeah. And Pete, just to add, I think actually there's, based on my experience, I've been approached for security type roles several times. I feel like there is a bit of a lack of people, like you said.
There really is.
I think they're willing. So Experian, I think it was, or Equifax, one of those credit companies, were willing to train me pretty much from scratch at 100k a year, fully remote, based on the fact I had taught myself all of this other stuff, and that was before I took this current job. And I said no basically because I was would have been the only UK person, and the other 12 members of the team were in the States.
I remember you telling me this actually
Yeah.
at the time. Yeah, I
And
do
so
remember this.
yeah, so I was waiting. I think I was waiting for that one, wasn't I? And I was like, oh, I'm going to take this other role. And so that just goes to show, I think, that there is a lack of talent in the UK around for that particular skill set, that they are willing to find someone who would just be passionate and learn the stuff on the job, and they'll pay 6 figures for it. It seems ludicrous.
Yeah, I think security. Yeah, I think you're right. There definitely is a lack, which is almost like a bit surprising, isn't it? Because you think the amount of data going about now, that security would be a big thing, but it's definitely in demand for sure. I think across cybersecurity and InfoSec, and it's something you want to get into. Then I think there's some real great opportunities out there, especially probably, as you said, within the kind of the finance and credit market for sure.
Awesome. Okay. Anyone in the live chat got any more questions? I think they are all my pre-canned that you all sent. I thought Noah popped one in, but he has removed it. Oh no, Farhan actually put in another one. So in terms of routes then, so I believe Farhan's 17 or 18, so he's been asking a lot, like, should I go to uni? What should I do? Should I drop out my A levels? What should I do? Like, should I just go down the south? I was like, please don't make any decisions based on what I'm saying. But he has asked apprenticeship, uni, or self-learn to get into DevOps.
Yeah, I love this question. And also what you just said there. I remember thinking of that when I was like 16, 17, and just like, what do I do? So look, I went to uni myself. I think, each 3 of those routes is definitely a route to get into DevOps. If you're asking me to pick one, and from stories that I've learned from my personal experience, I think uni is great for multiple different reasons. You meet people, you have a great time, you grow as a human being, which I think is just great for the corporate world as such. But one case study, obviously, is one of my friends. Actually, I can't remember exactly what he studied, but it was in the data world. He obviously went to agree and did a placement year. So did 2 years. On his 3rd year, went to work for a company. Then obviously came back and did his final year. And obviously after he graduated, he then went and just worked for that company, did this placement year.
Nice.
So I think uni can be great, because if you can do it with a placement, then you get an opportunity where companies take on people for their placement years. They openly advertise it. You kind of do a bit of an interview process. I mean, even not in tech, but I think one of my friends did a marketing one for Nike, and obviously she's done amazing things for her career now. So I think uni is great for that, because if you can get a placement year, then you get a year's hands-on experience.
Yeah.
So when either you go back and join that company, or when you start apply, you can say, look, this is what I've done in my year's placement year. So as someone that went to uni, I think I'll always push people to go to university, because I think it's great for so many reasons. But that is not saying, there's probably so many people that have done apprenticeships or self-taught that are doing very well now. So I don't think there is a right or wrong answer, but if you ask for my personal opinion, then I'd always push people towards uni for sure.
Yeah. See, I go down the other route because I didn't do uni.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of, everyone just says what they
exactly. So you can only go with your own experience, right? But one thing I did notice, not necessarily in tech, but in my previous career, was graduate schemes, and I think that's what you're talking about there, right? Once you get onto a graduate scheme, they pay really well for a first bloody job, and once you're in the door, like we said, like if you can get in the door, and it takes you 2 or 3 years of uni to almost, not a guarantee, but have offers sat in front of you that you're just applying for graduate schemes to get into tech, you won't look back. And if you're doing that at the age of 18, 19, 20, by the time you're 25, you could potentially be earning the sorts of money that I talk about. And it's like having 4 or 5 years in the industry is enough. And you'll be, like one of the guys that works for me is obviously not much less than me, and he's 12 years my junior. And it makes me cry a little bit inside on the decisions I made. But like, he went to uni, he did computer science. And the thing that I would say about computer science is it teaches you just enough about everything. It won't just teach you how to program, but it will teach you about the underlying architecture, like how computers really work. And there's a great course by Harvard, actually. It's free. It's called the CS50. And I've done that as well, which I haven't linked to anyone, but I will. I'll put it in the Discord. And it's amazing. And it's free. It's taught by a Harvard professor. It's incredible. It covers Python. It covers like bits and how all of that stuff is made up, and how some really, really cool stuff. And so part of it did make me want to like do it.
Yeah.
I'm just disconnected in my back. Yep. And so yeah, part of it does make me just to say I've got it, and just to say I've done it, because I didn't go through it at the first time. But equally, everyone I ask says it's going to do nothing for your career, so you are literally just getting the debt for no reason at this point. But so if I was at that age, I would consider it more. But if you're, a lot of the people in my Discord are changing careers, and therefore it doesn't make as much sense, right? You can learn in your own time, you can get the projects down, and if it takes you 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, it doesn't matter, because you're still paying the bills anyway.
Exactly.
Whereas if you're younger, then it might be the right thing to do.
It completely depends on where you're at, isn't it? And I think for whatever stage it is, because obviously if you think about uni, if you're going to do a placement year, that is 4 years. So if it's going to take, if you're already in a job and it's going to take 3-4 years of perfecting the projects, then I think, in terms of time frame, you're coming to a similar outcome, aren't you?
Yeah.
So I think, if you're 17, 18, then maybe go that way, but there's definitely no stress to jump on a uni course and pay all the tuition fees if that is not the case.
Yeah, fair enough. There was some stuff here around CVs. No one's actually asked a formal question, but there was a chat earlier. I guess it might be worth just asking you, actually, have you got any like key pointers for either structuring of a CV, or things that are a waste of time putting on, or things that absolutely should be on? Does the order matter? I know as a recruiter you tend to rejig things and send it on anyway, or put it into a template potentially.
To be fair, actually, but for me personally, I always kind of I quite like to send natural CVs, especially if they stand out. I think first thing is that advice I always give to people and friends and outside of tech is, I think cover letter is so important. I think CVs very much can get scanned over, but I think the one point I'd always say on cover letters is, what I think a hiring manager will do is look at the CV and then they will pick up the cover later on. And I think it's the same as reading an email, is that the first bit of the cover letter, you want to really stand out. So what I'd recommend doing is, I think what happens when people write cover letters, they go, hi, so-and-so, and kind of then just go into a spout of why they think they're amazing for the job. I think the first paragraph, it's going to take you a little bit more time, because you obviously can't really just spray it out there. Have a research into the company you're applying for, pick out something that you think's interesting and why you want to apply for them, and start the first couple of lines just a little bit about them. So, hi, Mr. Manager, was just having a browse over X and X, really like this, and really think that something that really excites me about the company. Has only going to be a couple of lines, but just something that's just showing that you are making effort to apply to that company. Because I think, a lot of hiring managers, especially probably for junior roles, just think people go on Indeed on LinkedIn and just click apply, and they just send the same template out, hoping that one person comes back. As if you're that one person who makes a little bit of an effort, and the person might read it and go, look, fair enough, I'm going to actually take some time to actually properly read the next bits. So that would be my kind of main bit of advice, especially for junior roles, because naturally there might be a lot of applicants. An extra 10 minutes could really make you stand out. And especially, as I said, it kind of goes back to the point I made earlier, of that if you pick an industry or something that interests you, that will happen really naturally. Because if you want to get into X kind of industry, then you'll be like, look, love your company, I know this and this and about this, even that's beyond kind of what you've done in DevOps. And I think that'll really stand out. So that'd be kind of my first point. In terms of CV format, and again, if I get in Discord, I'm happy to kind of go over this. Especially for obviously when you kind of get more seniors, I think CVs naturally do get a bit more wordy, but I think it's great to put a little kind of blurb, a little bit about yourself at the top. Again, try to make it a bit more personable. I'd say, bring your character out. I think skills, I always kind of like to see your skills and stuff at the top, just kind of what you've done exactly. And then kind of in the blurb, when you're writing about your project, I think people love to read about project outcomes. I think it's quite natural and very easy to, because I did exactly the same. When you're writing a CV, you kind of just go into story mode, don't you? Say like, I did this and this. But when people like to see exactly what the outcome, again, if you're talking about your GitHub, talk about stuff that went wrong. People like that. Talk about things that went wrong, how you overcome it, and how you've got to the end point. I think, definitely talk about outcomes in your journey. It will do another thing to stand out. Don't go into kind of bullet point story mode where you just tell people what you've done. add a bit of character to it. It's kind of my 2 points that I'd say.
Nice, thank you very much. Just on that GitHub piece, actually, I know we've already covered projects. For people doing that, make sure there's a README, and that you are not only documenting how to deploy the application, but any design decisions and technical decisions made and why you've gone down a certain route, because that in itself displays an understanding of why you're using certain technologies, and that is a sort of thing that would get you to stand out versus a couple of bullet points saying this is how you use this software sort of thing. So yeah, I just want to add that in. Cool. So I don't appear to have any more questions, and I appreciate it's the evening. So unless you've got anything additional that you want to share, or anything, final words of wisdom or anything, then I can let you go, mate.
Yeah, no, I just think just keep at it. I know probably a lot of people say it's right, but I think getting into tech and I guess any job, just witnessed it with a friend with a completely different industry. She's trying to become a clinical psychologist, and God, she went through so many applications, but she's just finally got her first one. And it's taken her time. It's taken her time. She's had to get experience. So I think in any world you will get disheartened. They probably will be quite lows, but just keep at it. If you're motivated by it, it will come eventually. I can give as much advice. We can give as much advice. There's probably no right or wrong answers, but yeah, if it's one you get into, just stick at it, and I promise you, it will come eventually. So I think that'd be my one kind of bit of advice, really.
Awesome. Cheers, Harry. Thank you very much. I will get you an invite to the Discord, and we'll chat off camera and stuff. And appreciate your time, mate. Thanks everyone for joining. Anyone who is there, I can't see how many people are there, so hopefully someone still is. But yeah, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
No problem at all.
Cheers, mate. Bye.